Welcome to today's deep dive. Today we are exploring a truly profound piece of writing titled, Why Fear Protects You Better Than You Think.
Yeah, it's such an incredibly powerful piece.
It really is. And our source material today is entirely focused on understanding the human experience through the lens of Gestalt therapy.
Right. Which is a very specific and fascinating framework.
Exactly. And our mission for the next block of time is to completely reframe how you view your own hesitation, your avoidance, and those moments of agonizing self-sabotage.
Because we all have them.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're aiming to transform fear from this enemy that you're constantly fighting into a deeply misunderstood companion.
It is a fundamental shift in perspective. I mean, we spend so much energy battling our own instincts, and this text offers a completely different, much more compassionate path forward.
Yeah, it really does. So to set the stage for this, I want you to picture a scenario. It's late, the room is totally quiet, but your mind is it's racing.
Yeah.
You're lying in bed, the glow of your phone illuminating your face, and you just swipe past a post.
Oh man, we have all been there.
Right. Maybe it's an old friend launching their dream project, or, I don't know, an acquaintance walking away from a career that was just draining them.
Yeah, somebody making a big move.
Exactly. And suddenly, right there in the dark, something inside your chest just tightens.
Mm-hmm.
It's not jealousy, or at least not only jealousy, it's heavier than that. It's this deep, sinking ache of dread.
Yeah, because you absolutely know there is something in your own life that you have been avoiding.
Yes. It could be a conversation you've been putting off for months, or a boundary you keep meaning to set with a family member.
Or creative risk you just, you cannot bring yourself to take. The specifics change, but the physical weight of that avoidance, it's universal.
And every single time you even inch toward doing that thing, your body just hits the brakes.
Right.
Your breath gets shallower. Your thoughts scatter into a million different rationalizations.
Right. You tell yourself, I'm just being realistic, or I'm being responsible by waiting for a better time.
Yeah, now isn't the right time.
Yeah.
But beneath all that incredibly convincing logic, there is this quiet, terrifying whisper saying, if I do this, everything might fall apart.
Exactly. And usually when we feel that heavy dread, that freeze response, we label it as cowardice.
We do. We assume we are just, failing a test of bravery.
But Gestalt therapy challenges that assumption at its very root.
Right.
To understand why, we should probably clarify what the Gestalt approach actually is.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So unlike some traditional psychology that might spend, years exclusively excavating your childhood memories, Gestalt is intensely focused on the present moment.
The here and now.
Exactly. It looks at the holistic experience of the person's, mind, body, and environment happening right here, right now. Under this framework, that freeze response is not a character flaw.
No, it's not.
It's a biological, emotional, and deeply ingrained signal.
It's an active process of protection. The text describes this fear as a silent, vigilant, unwavering inner sentinel.
That's a great phrase for it.
It really is. It's standing guard, and it is doing so to shield you from what it genuinely believes would be unbearable pain, based entirely on the wounds you've collected in the past.
Yeah, the source illustrates this with some very visceral examples. Think about the terror of hitting publish on a piece of writing.
Oh, wow, yes. That paralyzing feeling.
Right. That terror doesn't just come out of nowhere. It might be echoing a moment from when you were 10 years old, standing in front of a classroom, sharing a poem, and people laughed.
And your body just remembers that.
The nervous system recorded that laughter as a catastrophic threat to your social survival.
Yeah.
Or consider the inability to speak up in a workplace meeting. You might have the echo of a parent's voice drilled into your neural pathways, warning you, don't make waves.
Or holding back your true feelings in a relationship because, maybe a past partner walked away the moment you asked for too much honesty.
Exactly. The nervous system logs all of this data. So before you can even fully form the intention to take a risk today, this inner sentinel rises up and says, not today.
Not yet.
We know how this ends, and it is not safe.
The conditioning is just incredibly durable. It is a survival strategy forged in moments when vulnerability actually resulted in emotional or physical danger.
When wanting more genuinely meant being told you were greedy or dramatic or just, too much.
While I appreciate the concept of this inner sentinel trying to keep me safe, I have to admit it feels profoundly irrational most of the time.
How so?
Well, my throat gets dry and my shoulders creep all the way up to my ears just thinking about sending a mildly assertive email.
Just an email.
A simple email. my life is demonstrably not in danger. The stakes are incredibly low, yet my body is reacting as if I'm walking into a lion's den. It just feels like I am needlessly sabotaging my own progress.
And that frustration is completely valid, especially when the conscious mind knows the stakes are low. However, Gestalt therapy insists that nothing in your physical experience is random.
Okay.
Every physical response carries a very specific meaning. Your dry throat and your tense shoulders, they're not a malfunction. The text uses a really powerful word for this: fidelity.
Fidelity, yeah, like fidelity to an old contract you made with yourself.
Exactly.
An agreement that explicitly stated, if I stay quiet, I will be okay. If I don't ask for what I want, I won't be abandoned.
Right.
So when I hesitate to send that email, it's my body rigidly adhering to an agreement that kept me safe when I was younger and, had no other tools to cope with the rejection.
You are honoring a vow you forgot you even took. The body remembers the vow, even if the mind has moved on.
That is so wild to think about.
It is. And to fully grasp how this invisible contract hijacks our current behavior, the text introduces the Gestalt cycle of experience. Life, according to this framework, moves in natural, undulating waves of needs emerging and being met.
Yeah, the text outlines this as a fluid progression. It starts with sensation, like a vague feeling in the body, that crystallizes into awareness, like, oh, I have an idea. From awareness, we move into mobilization, where the body gathers energy to do something about it.
Like feeling the urge to draft the email.
Exactly. I feel the urge to do the thing.
And that rising energy is supposed to culminate in action, which leads directly to contact. Contact is the crucial moment here.
Right.
It is the actual engagement with the environment or another person. It's the email being received, the boundary being spoken aloud, the art being shared.
And then, following contact, there is satisfaction and finally a withdrawal of energy until the next cycle begins.
But the inner guardian doesn't let us get to contact. It acts as an interruption.
Right, the wave builds sensation, awareness, mobilization, and then right at the threshold of action, the energy gets abruptly diverted.
Because the sentinel assesses the impending contact as too dangerous. It calculates that reaching out to the world is just too likely to reopen that original wound.
It's trying to stop you before you get hurt.
Notice the subtlety of this mechanism, too. The interruption rarely manifests as a cinematic panic attack.
Oh yeah, it's way more sneaky than
The
that.
Guardian works through incredibly subtle, mundane diversions. You might experience a sudden yawn.
Or a wave of overwhelming fatigue that makes you think you just need a quick nap before you tackle the task.
Exact.
Or an intense, sudden urge to go fold the laundry or reorganize my entire desktop file system.
We all do it.
I mean, when I lean toward something vulnerable, like asking a friend for help, my mind suddenly floods with practical concerns that demand immediate attention.
That is the interruption happening in real time. It's siphoning off the energy mobilized for vulnerability and pouring it into safe, meaningless tasks.
Viewing avoidance as an embodied strategy like this changes the entire paradigm. It removes the moral failing from procrastination.
It really does. Your guardian is actively diverting your life force to prevent an interaction it believes will destroy you.
The source also dives deeply into another mechanism of interruption, which is projection.
Oh, projection.
Yeah, and this is where it gets uncomfortably relatable. Instead of just getting sleepy or distracted, the interruption takes the form of projecting our own inner critic onto other people.
Right, we stop ourselves from acting by writing a script for the world.
Yes. We think, if I launch this project, they'll think I'm arrogant, or if I set this boundary, they're gonna laugh at my audacity.
And Gestalt asks us a very piercing question about those imagined reactions.
Which is?
Are those voices actually belonging to your friends, your colleagues, or the internet at large? Or are they your own self-judgments, dressed up in borrowed clothes?
Oof, that's heavy.
When you assume the world will think you are arrogant, it is almost always your own internal policing mechanism. The Guardian uses your own unmet needs and insecurities to ensure you don't violate that old contract of staying small.
So I am taking my own fear of taking up space, placing it into the mouths of other people, and then using their imagined disapproval as an excuse to stay hidden. It's a closed loop of self-censorship.
It is an incredibly efficient way to avoid the terror of contact. You reject yourself before the environment even has a chance to respond.
Realizing this is happening is sobering, but also, frankly, incredibly frustrating.
I can see why.
Because historically, when I catch myself avoiding something out of fear, my instinct is to just get angry at myself.
You try to fight it?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
try to white-knuckle my way through the panic. I try to force the action, bulldozing over the anxiety through sheer willpower. And it usually feels awful, and honestly, it rarely sticks.
Well, willpower is a blunt instrument, and bulldozing only confirms the guardian's suspicion that you are in danger.
That makes a lot of sense.
When you attack your own defenses, the internal sentinel feels even more threatened, and it entrenches further. The source offers a profoundly different approach rooted in the Gestalt practice of phenomenology.
Phenomenology. It sounds like a dense academic concept, but the way the text frames it, it is actually a deeply grounding, almost meditative practice.
Right. It means observing your present moment experience without interpretation.
Stripping away the narrative.
Because the narrative is where we get trapped. You might be sitting at your computer paralyzed, telling yourself a complex story. I'm an imposter. I don't have the credentials for this. Everyone is going to see through me.
Right, you spiral.
Phenomenology asks you to drop the storyline completely. You turn your attention entirely to the physical reality of the moment. You note simply, there is a tightness in the center of my chest. My jaw is locked. My breathing is shallow, and there is a story forming in my mind about being an imposter.
You decouple the physical sensation from the catastrophic meaning you've attached to it.
Exactly.
You look at the raw data of the nervous system without letting it define your worth.
And by doing this, you begin to unravel the interruption. The text emphasizes a critical step here. We must internally re-own the impulse to close the loop of that interrupted cycle.
Because the energy you mobilized earlier didn't disappear.
Right. It got trapped in your body as unfinished business.
So if my deepest suppressed impulse in a moment of conflict was to push someone away to protect my space, I obviously shouldn't physically shove a coworker.
No, please don't do that.
Right. But the energy of that push is still humming in my nervous system. So re-owning the impulse means I need to internally acknowledge and feel that energy in my arms.
Yes. The suppressed physical impulse must be brought into conscious awareness. If you have the urge to run away from a difficult conversation, you allow yourself to feel the literal twitch of adrenaline in your leg muscles.
Wow.
If you are terrified and holding back tears, you consciously let the muscles around your eyes soften.
I wrestle with this part of the text, I'll be honest.
Yeah. Why is that?
Well, if I am feeling absolutely terrified about speaking up, and instead of pushing through it or distracting myself, I just sit there and focus entirely on the physical sensation of wanting to bolt. My fear is that lingering in that tension will cause me to spiral.
You're afraid you'll lose control.
Exactly. It feels like throwing fuel on a fire. Won't focusing on the anxiety, just allow it to consume me.
The fear of being consumed by our own feelings is perhaps the most common barrier to this work. But there is a massive physiological difference between ruminating on a fearful story and holding space for a physical sensation.
Okay.
This practice is not about generating drama, it is about restoration. When you constantly fight a feeling, the body interprets that resistance as an ongoing threat. The alarm bells keep ringing because the system assumes the danger is still present.
But by allowing the physical impulse to surface in awareness, without fighting it and without acting out the catastrophic story, the feeling itself stops fighting back.
Yes. The cycle of experience gets to complete its natural arc. The wave crashes and recedes.
And in that receding, something remarkable happens, doesn't it?
It does. Your inner guardian softens. It observes your current capacity. It sees that you are not that helpless, overwhelmed child anymore.
It recognizes that you can feel the intense, uncomfortable flush of fear, hold it in your awareness, and not shatter.
Exactly. You update the Sentinel's threat assessment by proving you can experience the sensation and still retain your agency.
We need a better way to visualize this than the tired cliche of putting fear in the passenger seat of a car.
Right. That one's a bit overused.
Think of it more like an autoimmune response in the body. Sometimes, a hypervigilant immune system gets confused and attacks healthy new tissue. In this case, new relationships, new boundaries, new opportunities, because it misidentifies them as the old infection.
That is a much more accurate representation of the biology at play.
You don't cure an autoimmune flare-up by screaming at your white blood cells or pretending the inflammation doesn't exist.
No, you definitely don't.
You have to slowly introduce the new environment to the body, proving step by step that these new cells are safe. You are retraining the system's recognition software.
And bridging the gap between this internal retraining and external action is the final hurdle. The most vital takeaway from the source material is that you do not wait for the fear to completely dissipate.
Right, you can't wait for perfect calm.
If you wait for the nervous system to feel perfectly calm and confident before you take a risk, you will be waiting for the rest of your life. The text suggests inviting the guardian into a literal dialogue.
You change the nature of the relationship. Instead of treating the fear like a parasite you need to eradicate, you might physically place a hand over your chest, right where that tightness lives, and silently communicate with it. You say, "Thank you for trying to protect me. I know you're working incredibly hard, but I am learning to hold myself now."
It radically alters the internal script. Instead of the familiar monologue of, "I am too scared, I can't do this, what is wrong with me?" you pivot to a statement of reality. You say, "I am doing this and I am terrified."
I am doing this and I am terrified. You are bringing the fear with you as a companion.
Yes.
It reminds me of carrying a heavy weighted vest during a climb. You acknowledge the weight is there. You feel it pulling on your shoulders. You don't pretend you are light as a feather. But you also don't let the vest dictate whether or not you take the next step up the mountain.
In Gestalt therapy, this integration is the essence of taking responsibility for your life. True courage is never defined as the absence of fear. Courage is defined as fidelity to your own becoming.
Fidelity to the person you are growing into, rather than fidelity to the outdated contract that kept you small. You take back the pen and you rewrite your narrative.
Beautifully put.
You walk alongside the fear like two travelers on the exact same path. One traveler is trembling, anticipating disaster, and the other is steady, anchored in the present moment. But you're both moving toward the exact same horizon.
Approaching yourself with this level of profound compassion removes the suffocating layer of shame that usually accompanies anxiety.
It's so liberating.
Of course you are afraid. Your nervous system is functioning exactly as it was designed to, trying to keep you alive based on the data it has. But through this practice, you get to politely inform your biology that merely staying alive is no longer the goal.
The goal is to actually live.
Yes, when you stop treating the fear as a moral failure or a wall blocking your path, it transforms, becomes a threshold.
A doorway you have to pass through, feeling the friction as you go.
It creates the space for a quiet, steady trust in your own resilience to take root.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's distill what this means for you, the listener, moving forward.
Okay.
The next time you find yourself staring at a blank screen or hovering over the send button and you feel that heavy, chest-tightening dread, pause.
Yeah.
Do not pathologize the feeling. Do not berate yourself for lacking bravery. And absolutely do not try to white-knuckle your way through a wall of panic.
Drop the catastrophic storyline. Turn your attention to the physical reality of your body. Notice the locked jaw, the buzzing energy in your chest. Let the physical impulse exist without trying to fix it.
Offer a moment of genuine gratitude to that inner guardian for its years of relentless, exhausting loyalty. Acknowledge the weighted vest you're wearing. And then take the next step.
Yeah.
Make the choice to act, even with trembling knees. Trembling is not a sign of failure. It is simply the physical manifestation of bringing your history with you as you step into the unknown.
Before we sign off, I want to expand this concept outward, beyond our individual lives.
Okay, I love this.
We spent this time discussing the personal inner guardian, an outdated sentinel protecting a vulnerable past self. But consider what happens when we apply this Gestalt framework to our collective societal fears.
Oh, wow. A macro level.
Right. If individual avoidance is just a system trying to protect us from historical pain, how much of our cultural hesitation, our political gridlock, or our societal resistance to change is actually just a macro-level interruption?
Entire cultures operating on outdated contracts made generations ago.
Exactly. Terrified of the vulnerability required to make meaningful contact with one another. What might happen if we could acknowledge the trembling in our collective nervous system and still choose to move forward together?
That is a staggering thought. A whole society learning to say, we are doing this and we are scared.
It really changes the way you look at the world and the people in it.
It absolutely does. Thank you for joining us in this exploration today. The next time you feel that heavy ache of hesitation, remember, it isn't a stop sign. It's a request for integration.
Stay in that raw, quiet space between your instinct for protection and your capacity for possibility.
Because that is the exact location where your actual life is waiting to begin.